Welcome back, everybody, to Just Keep Parenting. Thanks for joining in again for this version about starting kindergarten. Last week we talked about school readiness and what that looked like, and as we're getting ready again for kindergarten registration, I thought it might be a little bit encouraging if we could talk about kindergarten and the start of it and what we can do as caregivers to help children feel ready for kindergarten. So again, from Mr. Rogers' book called the Mr. Rogers Parenting Resource Book, he talks about a story with his own daughter. Let me just read it, a little vignette. One of the neighbor kids told our daughter that she had to know all of her ABCs before she started school. That really scared her. I wanted her to have a more positive image. So after talking with her about her fears, we started playing school at home, and I let her be the teacher. It was fascinating to see what kind of teacher she pretended to be. That helped me talk with her about some of the teachers I had when I was a child and some of the things I enjoyed doing when I was at school. What a sweet moment, right, for parent and child, for caregiver and child to play school together and kind of take care of maybe some misconceptions, some misunderstandings, and to encourage. So, most of the children are pretty eager to learn. They come ready to learn, right, as we talked about last week. Sometimes they're a little bit jealous, right, that they can't go to school with the bigger kids. And so as they start school, they can have all kinds of big feelings, right? I don't remember those big feelings when I started school because I don't have that good of a memory. I have a sister that has a memory like an elephant, but I don't remember that. But sometimes children think that being sent to school is a punishment, right? Because they want to stay home if they have a parent that is home, right? And so they're being sent away, so to speak. And so they're trying to deal with that as well. Sometimes they want to feel jealous of those younger siblings that are staying, right? So they're jealous of the older kids, they're jealous of the younger kids. So they don't really know how to deal with all these feelings that they have going on. So we've got to make sure that there's not any misconceptions about school, because sometimes they do. We can reassure them that it's a great adventure, right? It won't be completely new. There will be some things that are familiar to them, like they have bathrooms, they have chairs, they have tables, they might have a desk, right? Some similar things that they may have at their house. And so one of the things that Mr. Rogers quotes is sometimes they're afraid that there's not going to be any playtime, right? And so in today's world, unfortunately, because we're pushing down first grade curriculum into kindergarten, that sometimes is the case. But there is going to be a recess time, right? And if they have an early childhood educated teacher, there's probably going to be a little bit of playtime in there because we know that play is a child's work. So it's helpful to encourage our children to talk about their concerns, right, or fears, so we can take care of their questions and correct their misconceptions and give them some realistic expectations. I just love the fact that he talks about it's discovering a new world. It's a great adventure, right? But we need to make the connections. We need to tap into their schema to talk about the things that are familiar. And so they have a kitchen, right? They have places to play. They have grown-ups like teachers that are there to help them. So recognize too that I was just talking with one of my night students. She was talking about she has a sister with three children, and they seem to be regressing a little bit, right? And we know that children do that, right? They take a step forward, then they take a step back. And so recognizing that as they start school and these big emotions, these big feelings start coming up, that we can be reassured that if they start sucking their thumb again, or even have some toileting accidents, right? Or they might be a little more clingy to their caregiver, that's pretty typical because they're going into this new place and they don't know how to handle that, right? So we revert back and then all of a sudden, boom, right? I love how he says it in here. He says, it helps to remember that such steps backward often come before big strides forward in a child's development, right? So it's that almost 2 steps back and then boom, forward to what they're doing and what they're growing in. So we also want to recognize that sometimes letting go can be hard for parents, right? Especially with their oldest, right? And being able to recognize that my baby's growing up. In preschool even, I have parents who who cry, right, as they drop their kiddos off. And being aware of that, I think, as a teacher is so important. They might need an extra hug, right? We had a situation just last week where a child was having a hard time separating, and bless his little heart. So we took him, and it was, I think it was the first or second day back from the Christmas break, and I said, I've got this. If you're okay with this, I've got this. And she said, okay. And she walked out, and I had a parent that was outside who's a dear friend of mine, and she said, you look like you might need a hug. She didn't even know this parent. She said, you look like you need a hug. She noticed the tears in her eyes. She said, I do need a hug. I love that we can be supports for each other, right? Because this is a new ball of wax for some of us as well. All right. He goes on to say, no matter how well things are going for your child at school, it can be very helpful to take the time to get to know your child's teacher, right? And principal. And children can sense when we're all on the same page together. So being able to know them, I love it when I can get to know my parents. I know much more about the child. I feel like the little triangle, right? And the parent and the teacher and the child are in that triangle. And when I know their names, it just helps me to have a better connection with them, and the children can feel that. All right, so asking and listening, right? So being able to help our children figure out what was hard today, what was fun. If we ask the children, how did it go? It's kind of like telling them to, all right, everybody clean up. And they're like, oh, what does that really mean, right? Okay, so who's going to pick up the big blocks and who's going to pick up the little blocks, right? And helping them to like break it down. So as we're asking and listening at the end of the day, how did school go today? Fine, right? It's an open-ended question, but sometimes they don't have the capacity to understand that. So if we say, what was hard today? What was fun today, right? Asking them those open-ended questions that are more limited, right? They can answer those. And so they may say, it was fine today, and go on, right? But they know that we are listening when they're ready to tell us. The other thing that can be helpful is to help them, is to share your experiences with them about school. You know, I went to school when I was your age, and these are some things that happened, right? If we truthfully share with them what happened, the hard and the good, right, that can help our children. So as always, Mr. Rogers always has some helpful hints at the end. The first one is to try to, just to find that balance about acknowledging fears and talking about school and teachers in warm and positive ways. You might try to ask them questions to see if you can clear up any misconceptions. The second thing is to set up a visit, right? If you can, set up a visit and go and meet the teacher. And even before the back to school night, a lot of people have back to school nights. But even before that, if you can get in to, have them go see the cafeteria, if they're going to go in the cafeteria, the gym, where are the bathrooms, right? Those types of things. That can allay a lot of fears. The third thing that he talks about is get to know other children in your neighborhood. Helps if you have a friend that's going to be in school, right? Have a play date. Maybe you can set that up beforehand. The fourth thing is just kind of prepare them for some of the rules that might come at school, right? That you need to raise your hand. Maybe there's a time to go to the bathroom, maybe not, but talk to them about some of the things they might encounter so that you can prepare them beforehand. And then the fifth thing is helping them to know your family's address and your phone number, right? Taping it in their lunchbox or on their backpack or somewhere if they've forgotten it. Some kids, back in the day when you didn't have to know your zip or your area code, most of the kids could, memorize 7 numbers, but sometimes it's hard for them at that age to memorize 10 numbers, right? And so placing it in their backpack, on a little note, in their lunchbox, that sort of thing can be helpful. The next thing is to walk or ride with your child the first couple of days so they know the route, right? Talk to the bus driver, talk to the crossing guard. Some kids can really feel that those people are trusted adults in their lives. And then just before school begins, right? Help the child choose their clothes, get their lunch ready the night before so you're not rushing around the next day doing it. And sending them encouraging words, right? My mother always used to say, make it a good day. She never said, have a good day. It was our choice, right? But make sure that they're encouraging rather than, you better be good today at school, right? We want to be encouraging. We want them to feel good about the place that we're sending them off to. And then Include a kind note if they're packing a lunch, right? Include a little note that says that you love them, that you're thinking about them, that they can do hard things. And then after school, just remember that, there again, those open-ended questions, right? What was fun? What was hard for you today, right? And the last thing is to, if you hear that something was difficult at school, let your child know that you understand there are some things at school that are hard to do, that you're proud that he or she has been trying, and that tomorrow will be a new and hopefully a better day, right? So send them off to bed with that encouraging word. So kindergarten registration should open sometime in February or March. So keep looking for it if you've got a kindergartner, and just keep parenting and caregiving, everybody. Make it a great week.